Alright, for anybody who watches the channel regularly, and of course you do, you know I am a compressor hound. In fact, one of the videos that's done the best on this channel, which surprised the hell out of me, was one where I talked about getting more metal aggressive tones without the use of distortion, but by stacking compressors. The question I get asked maybe the most on the channel in the comments is, what compressor do you use? What one do you recommend? Well, the answer is finally here in this video. This is the one I've been waiting for. I'm really psyched about it, and it has a lot of things built into it that I've been waiting for a compressor to have. This is version 3 of the Alma compressor from Lusithand. I like the very cool modern look, white with that kind of gloss piece going through it, silver knobs, really slick looking, and you can see all the functions that are available. We're going to go through all of them and do some other sound tests and samples here. Now, some quick notes from the compressor video I did and why this specifically meets my needs so much better than a lot of others is when you're using compression and you're dialing in a tone, there is something that can happen. Well, it does happen, is that as you compress a signal, the whole function of a compressor is to bring the loudest part of the tonal spectrum down and the attack and volume of notes and lift the lower parts of it up. For me, this is critical because trying to get a really good, solid, contained rock and metal sound, I want to hear all those little details and everything really like your ears right next to my hand on the string. But the thing is, when you dial in your sound, things can happen where, because now you're lifting up the sub bass that was really low in your overall EQ originally, it's now going to lift up, and the treble end may get pulled down some, so now the overall balance of your sound has changed. And that's why I've used multiple compressors, I have an EQ in between them, things like that, to even out the tonal spectrum that happens after the compression. This has solved that to a huge degree, and it's packed right here in the unit. So we'll be talking about this, but so let's get it hooked up and let's check out some sounds. Okay, so as I notated real quick in the intro video, what we're doing is using the Weldang multi-coil pickups, the Fat Mama 5 set, which these have an individual humbucker under each string instead of one straight pickup like you might usually see. Very cool, and shout out to Mike for actually putting my logo on the front of these. That was very cool. So you'll be seeing that in the next video that comes up, and that's run into the Lusithand NFP filter. This is, again, another kind of completely individual idea and something you don't see as common. So we're going to be doing a demo on this pickup and filter combo set. There's a lot packed in it, but that's for the next video. This one, we're going to be doing some compression. So let's take a look at our layout here real quick. First we have up is the amount of clean brought into the signal, then the amount of compression, overall volume. New in version 3 are these switches that add a -6 dB pad, and you know, if you have a particularly hot instrument, something like that, you can pad that up front. And then you have a fast and slow attack option, which is always having a little bit of control over that, a great option to have on compression. If you don't understand how that functions, the brief overlay is fast attack means that the compressor acts very quickly on large volume spikes and that kind of thing. Slow means it's going to dial in, but not quite as hard, and it's not going to clamp down as fast. The star of the show for me, though, is really the EQZ and the Shift EQ. We'll be going into that in a second, but this is where you can redo that balance, and it just makes such a world of difference. So real quick, let's just hear the setup, no compression, and get our ears prepped, all right? Now, everything at noon, straight up, and we're at 8-to-1 compression. That's full up on here. Let's hear that. That's a world of difference, right? So much more articulation, and just, I mean, the sound is gone from black and white to 4K. So let's start messing with some knobs and see what we get. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dial back a little bit. And let's go to 4K before we start messing with the knobs and just see what a difference that makes. Back to 8. So it's almost more of a feel thing. It's just a little tighter on the bottom, and everything feels like, almost like I'm being hugged from both sides, if that makes any kind of sense. There's just not that kind of explosiveness going out. So while we're on this, let's dial up the amount of compression and see what that does. First, I want to take this off. And again, I'm going to hit some really low notes. I want to kind of max out the subs because I think you'll hear that the best over the video. So without any compression, it's a little floppy. It's a little open on the bottom. Putting it in, that punch is right there. Dial in a lot more compression. So that is just, it's like a kick drum. It just, but you're still hearing detail. And that to me is what's critical, especially for metal and rock compression, is being able to hear all the other things, the fret click, your fingers really digging in, that type of thing. Off. Yeah, you hear it now, don't you? Now, even though this is a fantastic setup, it sounds kind of dull without that compression. Those little stops and starts, they're not as clear. They're not as really dialed and nailed in. Let's try it again. And I can hear more of that, the little bit of honk that's coming from the rear pickup. Great. Now, let's take a look at the clean and see what balancing some of the clean signal into it does as well. Let's take it all the way off first. Let's bring in a little bit of the clean. We'll say about halfway like we had it. So now there's a little bit more loose dynamic mixed into it, so you're getting the best of both worlds there. Let's dial a lot more clean into it. Hear how now there's kind of a, it's almost like a bi-amped kind of setup. There's, you can hear a lot of the clicks, you can hear a lot of the stuff, but it's being allowed to leak out. Like I can really push it up, and I can move volume and that type of thing, but it's not letting me bottom out completely. Even if I've just barely, you're still getting that note. So the compression underneath is working. It's almost like there's a core stable sound, and then I'm able to stack on top of it. and have some more dynamic dialed in over top. Again, best of both worlds. So there's so much depth in here and so much you can do that really just makes a huge amount of difference. So let's set these, we'll actually keep them there, and I'm going to go back to 4 and not have quite as heavy compression. It's starting to loosen up a bit. It's especially because I have so much clean in it. It's not quite crushing as hard. So if you want more dynamics in it, you've got them right here. It's just allowing that to come through, and it really becomes kind of an ecosystem or a little dance that you do to dial it in perfectly in between how much clean is going to allow you those dynamics, how much compression is really going to grab, and for me especially the tightness of the bottom end, and then the overall ratio of it. So I'm going to put it back to here. Let's have it where we did before. Now I've got this set on fast attack. Let's click over the slower. Again, some of the stuff can be a little subtle, but I hope you can hear that in that kish. When I first hit, it's more pronounced than it is on a fast attack, because it's allowing a little more to come through. It's not punching down quite as hard. So see how it's clamping down a little harder, a little faster now? That's the difference between the fast and the slow attack. Again, I'm not going to flip on the minus 60. Well, you know, let's just do it just for the sake of it. 6 dB pad. It's quite a cut. So no real tonal difference, just it's going to give you that cut in case you're just slamming it too hard. So I'm going to set these back a little bit, not quite as extreme settings, and let's get into this EQ. So this is what I was talking about up front, in that, let's turn this off completely. And let's say right now I've dialed in my sound, and this is right where I want it to live. That's just perfect for me. Now when I turn this in, it's gotten a little bright on the top end. That's actually what I want out of this, that clarity. But let's say, you know, we don't want that quite as much. So I'm going to look at the 900 and the 250. The 900 is the upper, closer to the upper mid-range, and I'm going to be able to rebalance the sound by pulling that back, just rounding it off a bit. Pull it back more. Hear how it's almost like an overall tone pot that's just letting you take a certain cue area and pull it back and rebalance the sound. It's not re-EQing it, it's more of a rebalancing. Now let's say I like this and I want a lot more of it. Let's hear center again. See, again, the color of the tone isn't changing. It's how much focus is in that area, how much, you know, low end and smooth over is happening. So I find the more you compress, to me, a lot of times, the darker a sound gets. So having that there, this is everything I wanted. This is what I spend so much time doing, is trying to balance what my compressor does to my tone versus what I want to hear from it in the end, and why I wind up re-EQing every time. I almost never dial in my bass tone before I have compression on it, because I know it's just going to change. Now, right out of the box. So let's pull it back to center, and let's put it at 250. 250 is going to be your low mid area, And that's usually where you get a lot of grunt out of your bass. So if this is where we are to begin with, if we add more there, here it's almost that quackiness gets added in. Really adds that snarl to the bottom end. If you're trying to get a older Spectre tone or something like Eddie Jackson from Queensryche, that type of thing, a lot of that 250 right there. So brighten that up and then pull it back. If you want a thicker, woodier sound in that area, complete inverse. See, so it's almost like a cleaner, like a sonic cleaner. Do you want to take that range and make it right up in your face and brilliant sounding and pull it forward? Or do you want to let it lay back, round it over, and make it not as prominent in your tonal spectrum? I absolutely love that. That is fantastic. That is everything I wanted there. So this to me packs in all the features I pretty much wanted. So if I were to say, I'm going to bring up the clean just a little bit, really compress it, add in that 900. You could hear pat, pat, just that just me doing that is like right up in your face. It's not a subtle tone anymore. The punch and the thunder it adds to that sound at the same time as you can hear all that detail, the mid click, all of it. And look what it does for evening things out like low notes and harmonics. If I take like a B string note, man, that just, everything you're playing is just going to come out even, right up front, articulate, and just pulled from, well, the harmonics were a little low, the bass was too loud, but it was floppy. Just pulls it together in this like just beautiful package. And yeah, this is really like the dream compressor as far as I'm concerned. Again, I don't know how this guy keeps doing it, but Lusithand is just knocking it out of the park with this stuff. So on a last note, inside, if you remove the cover on the back here, there is selectable voltage options. Now this can work at 9 and 18, but it also has a voltage doubler. So you can double those values by selecting them inside and go all the way up to 36 volt operation, which that's amazing. I mean, there could be no more headroom requested. But what that'll do is give you more space and, you know, give you that option of running at whatever voltage seems to work best for you and your instrument, and functions with your other pedals and things too. So, you know, having that doubler that goes all the way up that far is just crazy. So another great option, and that's selectable through the back. And on a last note, I wanted to give a shout out to another channel. For a lot of the Lusithand gear that I'm doing and demoing, there's another channel with some really good videos that before I started getting into a lot of the Lusithand stuff, I watched and found myself going back to this guy's videos a lot. He does really clear explanations, and it's coming from a different musical perspective. It's not quite as much metal and hard rock and that kind of thing. And the channel's called The Wetter Bass, W-E-T-T-E-R. go check him out. You know, it's a different style. He does different things than what I do. So get as much information for yourself as you can. You know, try different sources, that type of thing. And he's going to highlight maybe things that I don't as much. So check him out, especially for the Lusithand gear and that type of thing. He does a great job, really good long comparisons, and even shows like how to install the NFP filter, things like that. So you're going to get a lot of good guide work plus sound demos. So check them out. I think it's well worth it. In any case, what do you think of the compressor? Again, I'm just freaked out and blown away. I'm really enjoying it. And this is going on the pedal board. Like I said, I wasn't going to be demoing as much stuff that wasn't really coming to live in-house and become part of my personal setup. And this definitely is. So give me your thoughts and impressions. What are you using, and do you feel like this is going to solve a lot of the problems that you've been dealing with, or you might now see that there's a better option with the compressor you're using? So that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you on the next one.